Senor Columbus, you came early. I thought you went to India. No, Miel Rey, you won't believe my story. I didn't go to India. I crashed into an unknown land in the west. So you did not bring black pepper and cinnamon? No, but I brought gold. A massive pile of gold. Some native people, I call them Indians, and also these fluffy just said you found gold. Yes, a river of gold, actually. The year is 1492. Meet Christopher Columbus. He is a man with a dream, a compass, and absolutely zero spatial awareness. Columbus wanted to go to India to buy spices because European food was, let's be honest, incredibly depressing. But instead of sailing east, he decides to sail west. He hits a massive block of land that nobody in Europe knew was there. Does he realize he's in a completely new hemisphere? Absolutely not. I claim this land in the name of King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella of Spain. He looks at the local indigenous people and says, ah yes, Indians, wow, India looks way different than I pictured. Anyway, this is mine now. And that, kids, is how Europeans found a continent where millions of people were already living quite peacefully. It's like breaking into someone's house, sitting on their couch and claiming you discovered a brand new living room. But grab your tea and your muskets, because it gets so much worse. Once Spain realized there was gold in the Americas, they started printing money and conquering empires. France looked at this and said, hey, we want some of that. So they moved north into Canada to trap beavers for fur, because nothing says global superpower like wearing a dead rodent on your head. Then there was England. England was a bit late to the party, and they were feeling a massive amount of FOMO. In 1607, the British sent a bunch of rich, lazy guys to Virginia to start a colony called Jamestown. These guys had a brilliant survival plan for the New World. Don't plant any crops, dig for gold that doesn't exist, and essentially starve. Surprise, it didn't work. The winter of 1609 was so brutal that it was literally called the starving time. They got so desperate they ate their boots, their horses, and each other. Just when Jamestown was about to become a ghost town, a guy named John Rolfe brought a magical little plant from the Caribbean, tobacco. So I found this plant, you see. Dry these leaves, roll them up, light it, and smoke it. You feel getting high? Yeah, simple as that. Suddenly, everyone in Europe wanted to smoke, Jamestown got filthy rich, and the British realized America was a literal cash cow. Cut to 1620. A group of ultra-religious people called the Puritans, or Pilgrims, decided England wasn't holy enough. Peasants. Wasting the precious hours that God hath granted thee in vanity and idle mirth. Knowest thou not that time is a talent to be husbanded for the Lord's glory, not cast into the mire of foolish pleasures? We are just partying, mate. Honestly, England was glad to see them go because these people thought things like smiling and enjoying life were sins. They sail across the Atlantic on the Mayflower and land at Plymouth Rock, Massachusetts. They immediately start freezing and starving because once again, nobody brought a manual on how to farm in America. Local Native Americans, specifically a guy named Squanto, looked at these pale, shivering weirdos and took pity on them. He taught them how to grow corn and use fish as fertilizer. To celebrate not dying, they threw a massive 3-day feast, we call it Thanksgiving. It was a beautiful moment of friendship that lasted for about 5 minutes until the colonists multiplied, decided they wanted all the land, and began a centuries-long campaign of pushing the Native Americans off their own territory. Dark? Yes. Accurate? Extremely. Over the next 100 years, the British established 13 distinct colonies. They were basically like 3 completely different dysfunctional families living under the same roof. Up north, you had New England. It was cold, rocky, full of Puritans, rum distilleries and shipbuilders. They were also deeply paranoid. If a woman was too good at math or liked cats a bit too much, they threw her in a lake to see if she was a witch. So your resume is fitting for our job description. Solve this math equation and you will be employed tomorrow. What is 1 + 1 = 2? 2. We will be in touch. In the middle, you had the middle colonies like New York and Pennsylvania. They were chill, they grew a lot of wheat, tolerated different religions, and minded their own business. Down south, you had the southern colonies like Virginia and the Carolinas. They had perfect soil for tobacco, rice, and indigo. But because these massive farms required an insane amount of manual labor, the southern elites decided to rely on the transatlantic slave trade. They forcibly brought millions of kidnapped Africans over in horrific conditions to do all the work for free. This horrific system made the South unbelievably wealthy, but it planted a giant ticking time bomb right into the foundation of America. Oops, I just spoiled my next video. By the 1750s, the American colonists were doing great. They were rich, they had a lot of space, and Britain mostly left them alone because Britain was busy fighting wars across the globe. But then, the British colonists tried to move west into the Ohio River Valley. The French, who already claimed that land, said, "Oh, heck no." So they went to war. It was the French and their Native American allies versus the British and their Native American allies and the colonists. Fun fact, a young colonial militia officer named George Washington actually helped trigger the first battle by accidentally ambushing a French scouting party. Look at them down there, polished and smelling of lavender in the middle of a swamp, while we've been wearing the same damp wool trousers for 6 months. I say we go down there and steal their laundry. What do you say, boys? Wouldn't that be an act of war against the French? Pff, who cares? The British won the war, kicked France out of North America, and gained a massive amount of new territory. Hooray, everyone is happy, right? Wrong, because wars are expensive and Britain was now completely broke. Debt? Me, the king, but I have a crown. Crowned people don't have debt. Who spent all my pocket money? Well, you did, sire. Sending thousands of redcoats across the Atlantic to protect the American colonists from the French wasn't cheap, my lord. The King of England, George III, looked at his massive mountain of debt, then looked across the ocean at the American colonists who were barely paying any taxes at all. He thought, hey, we spent all this money protecting those ungrateful colonists from the French. It's only fair that they pay us back. Tax them then, you idiot! Tax them all. Tax the very air they breathe. Wouldn't that make them angry, sire? Oh, poppycock, tell the colonies that Papa George has come to collect his allowance. They love me. Nope, they did not. So, Parliament started passing laws. First came the Stamp Act, taxing all paper legal documents, playing cards and newspapers. Then came taxes on paint, glass and lead. And finally, the ultimate betrayal. They taxed their tea. Now the colonists didn't actually mind paying taxes. What they hated was that they had absolutely zero members in the British Parliament to vote on these laws. Okay, who is against these taxes? No one? Okay then, the taxes are passed. They yelled their favourite new slogan, "No taxation without representation." Britain responded by saying, "We don't care, pay us anyway," and sent soldiers to live in the colonists' houses to keep them quiet. Naturally, the colonists handled this with extreme maturity. In 1773, a bunch of angry Bostonians dressed up as Native Americans snuck onto British ships and dumped 92,000 pounds of tea directly into Boston Harbour. That is a lot of ruined tea for sure. King George was absolutely furious. He locked down Boston, sent more troops, and effectively said, "Game on!" The colonists realised that the time for complaining was over. They began gathering weapons, training militias, and storing gunpowder. The stage was set. One tiny spark and the whole continent was going to blow up into a revolution. But that is a story for part 2. So happy birthday, America, the greatest, most powerful nation on earth, at least, which was before Trump's epic Fury operation, which he won 24 times against Iran.